On today's episode of the DuckZone503 Podcast, we're going to be recapping and reacting to the 2024 Fiesta Bowl, where we saw number 8 Oregon dominate the competition 45-6 over the number 23 Liberty Flame. We all seen this coming. I'm your host, Dominiqk Peterson. This is the DuckZone503 Podcast. We talk all things Oregon football. Let's get into it, guys.
Welcome to the DuckZone503 Podcast. Talking all things Oregon football. With your host, Dominiqk Peterson. Let's go.
Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Whoa. Live. I'm live with you guys on IG. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to today's edition of the DuckZone503 Podcast. Today is January 1st, Monday, 2024. Happy New Year to everybody out there. I hope everybody had a great time last night. Hopefully everybody stayed safe, had a great night, and came into this morning. Get your coffee ready because we had some Oregon football. The last Duck game of the year, 2023, is wrapped up. We head into 2024. We got big things, no pun intended, Big Ten Conference coming in the fall. But as of now, we're wrapping up this year. Wasn't exactly the year. I said this in my last podcast. It wasn't the year the way we wanted to end it. But when it's all said and done, we can look back and go, we witnessed history, guys. Bo Nix's legendary season. He broke all kinds of records in this game. We'll get to it. Tez Johnson, his brother, had a special season. What a connection between those two that we got to see in this special season. Bucky Irving set some records for himself, getting some career numbers in rushing touchdowns this game. Oregon dominates the competition just like we saw this coming, man. This was a big-time game for both sides, really, man. For Oregon to, this was a special season. We only lost to Washington by 6 points. That Washington team is a special team. They're in the playoff right now. And, the Ducks got their best swing at it, and we just came up short. Team has to lose, and we lost both times to Washington. We end up in the Fiesta Bowl, and we get matched up with Liberty at that. Now, it's not our fault. It's not our fault. We got to go play Liberty. We just got to go handle business, and we proved what we had to do. Okay, thanks Liberty for coming. They had a great season, being 13-0, but this is what the Ducks do, man. This is just a whole nother league, a competition, a level up. We knew this coming in. Liberty had the weakest schedule in college football. Weakest schedule. They breezed through it, went 13-0, and this is what you get. You get paired up with the Ducks, and it was just a complete buzzsaw. Just want to say welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Juan Chavez, what's up? Just silly how Juan Chavez says here, just silly how a ranked 23 team thought they were going to be able to keep up with number 8 and a solid number 8. Thank you for Bo Nix and a fantastic season. 100%. We've seen Oregon all year long, just be one of the most consistent teams in the country. They really blew out every single team. They lost twice in the season to Washington, a playoff team, by 3 points in each of those two matchups. So it's not like Oregon's a horrible team when we just seen them get matched up to a team that went 13-0 and defeated, but played high school teams. Let's just be real here. So, it was a complete breeze for the Ducks here. They get the job done. Bo Nix, what an absolute year. We're going to get to his stats here in a second. Juan Chavez continues here. Now it's time to get to the Big Ten. We're definitely going to get some primetime games ahead in the 2024 season, and that's the icing on the cake. And that's what's good about these bowl games. Shout out Ryan Winter, Sports Chat 503. I know some of you guys know him on YouTube and his channel. He makes a great point on his channel. With this dying out of bowl games, look, the Fiesta Bowl, look at the crowd. Look at the crowd size. And he's actually at that game. I saw him there. Look at the crowd size. There was barely anybody in that Fiesta Bowl. Go back 10 years ago. You remember when the Ducks played Kansas State? It was kind of the same situation. Kansas State, not viewed as a big time school. A lot of people didn't really want to see them in the national championship. Oregon and Kansas State in 2013 were number 1 and 2 in the country. They were neck and neck, and a lot of people didn't see Kansas State as that strong of an opponent. What do you know? Kansas State loses to Baylor. Oregon loses to Stanford. Both meet in a bowl game that's not the national championship. And all year long, it looked like Kansas State and Oregon were going to be in that national championship. My point being here, Oregon gets into a bowl game that, they're not really too excited to be about. You know, they were looking forward to that national championship. In this case, would be college football playoff. And they come in, you know, but what do? They still handle business against, you know, Kansas State, against Liberty. That's just what they do. And, you know, it's good that we're getting in and we do our thing. Everybody, if you're just joining in here, make sure you subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. I know a lot of you watch on the Instagram Live. If you can please do me a favor after this podcast. If you are just tuning in, it's your first time watching the podcast, any of you guys tuning in at all, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you're a listener on Spotify, rate the podcast 5 stars for me. I give you guys weekly podcasts on all things Oregon football, recruit interviews with the players. I'm going to try to get all the players that just signed in this 2024 class onto the podcast throughout the next few months here, trickle them in whenever they get time. So stay locked in for that. And guys, if you're not on our social medias, at DuckZone503 on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all social medias, X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it. We're on there giving you the quickest Oregon football updates. So make sure you guys tune in there, follow there. We're going to be talking all things Big Ten ball as we head closer to the season. So make sure you guys are locked in. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast on YouTube. And if you listen on Spotify, rate it 5 stars. Appreciate everybody who does that. All right, guys, it was a total obliteration. Oregon wins 45-6 in the Fiesta Bowl. Now, Liberty really started out quick, okay? They had the first drive of the game. It really looked ugly from the Oregon defense. Liberty was having chunk plays. They came out and scored right away. At the end of that first quarter, it was 6-3, okay? Liberty came out running it. We knew Liberty was the number 1 running team in the country. That was a big key. Well, ending this game, Liberty ends with 168 yards rushing, and they finished with 2 turnovers. The Ducks forced 1 fumble, a big hit by Roderick Pleasant, man, towards the end of the game, and also an interception thrown by the Liberty quarterback. So Oregon able to force turnovers. That's a huge key on a team against Liberty that's trying to, you know, against a Duck team where they're overmatched on talent. They're trying to run the football, something that was their strength, which they finished well below of at 168 yards. And they're trying not to turn the football over so they can chew clock, right? Control the tempo of the game. That was pretty much the game plan of this Liberty football team. And for them to go up 6-3 in that first quarter was pretty big for them. Not going to lie. It was pretty big for them to capture the momentum of the game early on, but proved to show Bo Nix and this Oregon offense in that second quarter adjusted to what Liberty was doing and came out firing, absolutely firing. With this win, the Oregon Ducks win 12-plus games for the 6th time since 2010. Talk about being a successful program. Man, oh man, consistency is the key here to getting these recruits, keeping your program at the top of the prestige of college football. And Oregon does that with Bo Nix. You know, just a story of Bo Nix coming from Auburn, being so special. You know, everybody looked down on him 2-3 years ago. Would you have believed that Bo Nix would be here in this position? Throwing for, how much did he have today? Throwing for 363 yards and 5 touchdowns, 28 passing, 28 and 35 passing, 363 yards, 5 touchdowns. I mean, this dude is just special. This is automatic. And, you know, today, Bo Nix sets records here. He owns the Oregon Seagull season record for touchdown passes with 43. Bo Nix has the most passing yards in a single season ever by a Duck with 4,457 yards passing. Bo Nix breaks Max Jones' single season completion percentage record at 77.37% passing. Second best QBR in the country with 90.8. Heisman finalist. I mean, this guy did it all for Oregon. And these are these type of players. And I say this on the podcast. These are these type of players. They only come out once every 10 years. I mean, we're talking about Joey Harrington. I mean, if you want to go back a little bit more, Keely Smith, Joey Harrington going forward. We had Marcus Mariota, Justin Herbert, Bo Nix comes now just a few years later. I mean, these are special elite players that have special type seasons. And man, it's easy to take for granted. Game for game, these guys are passing for 4 or 5 touchdowns. And, you know, this is something that's very, very special, man. Very, very special. And his brother, Tez Johnson, to have his brother, Tez Johnson, on the team this year, who also set Oregon's single season record holder for receptions with 82. He also himself, Tez Johnson, had an absolute monster game. Tez Johnson finished with 11 receptions, 172 yards, and 1 touchdown. At halftime, Tez Johnson had 129 yards receiving. I mean, absolute monster game, dominating the competition. Nobody could guard this guy. And big thing is Tez Johnson still has eligibility left. Still has a decision to make. Is he going to go to the NFL? Who knows? I tend to think, me personally, if Bo Nix is leaving and that's his brother, I tend to think with the season that Tez Johnson had, what more can you do if you're Tez? I mean, 1,000 yards this year, just broke a record in single season, receptions with 82 now for in Oregon in one season. I mean, if I'm Tez Johnson, I'm following my brother to the NFL, but a decision has yet to be made. Now, would I like Tez Johnson to come back? Of course. He would easily be wide receiver 1. Absolutely electric wide receiver. And him paired with Dylan Gabriel would be, man, that would be absolutely awesome. The run game for Oregon matched Liberty's run game. That was a big thing for me because Oregon's run game was struggling the last few games against Oregon State, against Washington. The run game definitely, took a step back from what we were doing earlier in the season. And it was nice to see Bucky Irving rush for 14 carries, 117 yards, and a touchdown. Right behind him, Jordan James looks really explosive. 9 carries, 63 yards. Again, going back to Bo Nix returning for this game, we could say the same thing for Bucky Irving because we all know Bucky Irving will be gone after this game. He's going to go to the NFL draft as well. But he decided to play in this game and play with his teammates. He told his coaches, actually, I read a report that he, quote, just wouldn't feel right. He would feel actually sick to his stomach if he didn't go out there and play with his guys. And I think that just speaks to the culture and, the environment around this Oregon football program that Dan Lanning and his coaching staff has built. To be real with you, I mean, to have guys want to go out and play in this era of college football, I mean, look at the Florida State-Georgia game. You had a total of almost 50 players from Florida State and Georgia combined, almost 50 players. I think there was more than 50 players. I'm not exactly sure. Don't quote me on that number, but somewhere around there opt out of that bowl game just because their respective teams didn't make the bowl game they wanted. And I get it. A lot of players, even my dad was saying, why is Bo Nix playing a bowl game? If he gets injured, it's all done. And yes, he did risk that. But that just shows you, hey, I'm here to win and play college football. That's what I came to do. Because the pros ain't always guaranteed, but this is playing with your boys, starting on a team. And college only lasts one time. It's only one experience. And some people tend to forget that. But Dan Lanning and this staff is instilling that in their guys. And look, losing to Washington the way we did, losing the Pac-12 championship the way we did, not going to the college football playoff, we don't want to end the season like that. And shout out Ryan Winter, Sports Chat 503. He says this all the time. With the playoff being so prevalent and so dominant, everybody was like, playoff or bust, playoff or bust. We got to make the playoff. If you don't make the playoff, the season's a wash. And more, you're seeing the Oregon fan base. A lot of people turn that way. And not to say I don't want to make the playoff. Trust me, I do. I want to compete for a national championship. I want to win one. But the bowl season, what made college football so special at the end of the season is you had the opportunity to put the icing on the cake on your successful season. I mean, just look at Liberty, 13-0. They're obviously not going to go to a college football playoff. They're a G5 team. But they have an opportunity to put the icing on the cake in a Fiesta Bowl and beat Oregon and have probably the best season in program history for them. On the Oregon side, you're not going to the college football playoff, but you have an opportunity to put the icing on the cake and beat Liberty and have momentum going into 2024. Look at we just had a whole bunch of recruiting momentum with signing day, and we're going to have a new window of the transfer portal coming in. With all this winning and a new boost of momentum coming into the program with this win, I get it's Liberty, but still, it's a dominant win, exactly what you're supposed to do. You can use this as a good feeling, and with the fan base, it's a good feeling to win going out of the season as opposed to losing to Washington. And you get to put another trophy right there in the case. We got another Fiesta Bowl trophy right there. Going along with the one we from 2013 when we beat Kansas State. So that's nice. Bo Nix, man, what a game, what a year. I can't say enough of this guy. I got to boast about him a little bit here because this is, it's going to be one of my final times talking about him. This is it. He's going off to the NFL. It was, from 2 years. I'm going to be real. When he first came in, I was one of the ones where I was questionable. I was like, I don't know. I seen him at Auburn. He looks turnover prone. Looks like he runs around. But I didn't see the things that Oregon could provide for a player that now I do moving forward. Okay. Oregon, as long as they can recruit the way they can, they'll have dominant offensive lines. I mean, going back from the Mario Cristobal era, when Mario Cristobal came here at Oregon, he established that culture of dominant O-lines. And doing that from class to class, going back to 2018 with Penei Sewell and all those guys coming in, it has just been 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, dominant O-line, dominant O-line, dominant O-line. And you do that by having that first layer of 5 guys, the Penei Sewell class, come in and establish that culture. And then while you're having that, those guys play for the next 2-3 years, the TJ Basses, all those guys that got sent to the NFL, you then have those guys from the backups be the backup for 2-3 years. That's why you had guys like Jackson Powers Johnson be a Remington Trophy Award winner, because he was backing up guys like Alex Forsythe before that. And I'm excited to see guys like Iapani Lululu, who we've seen this game, come in at center, be a young guy come in and start. We all seen Josh Connerly be a starter this year, him take that next step next year. And, that's going to be absolutely dominant. Absolutely dominant. Bucky Irving, can't keep harping on this guy, makes the first guy miss. I'm going to miss this guy. Came in here from a Minnesota running back, fairly unknown to the college football world. And now he's going to go to the draft as, considered as one of the best running backs in college football. And for good reason, man. For good reason. This guy can make guys miss. He can lay blocks on people for the quarterback. He can block for the quarterback and go out as a wide receiver, catch passes. I absolutely love Bucky Irving. But let's talk about some of these young guys, man. Jordan James, the running back, man, the sophomore. We flipped him from Georgia, 4-star running back from the state of Georgia, actually. Follows Dan Lanning after Dan Lanning, came here. And, man, does he look the part. 9 carries for 63 yards. But the thing that stands out for me with Jordan James is the way he hits the hole, man. Like, when he bursts through that hole, it might not be as shifty, might not be as elusive as Bucky Irving is, but the way he runs downhill, I mean, defenders do not want to tackle this guy. You've seen it with the Liberty defenders, man. The Liberty defenders, I mean, they're a little undersized. That's just G5 guys. They were getting mauled over by Jordan James. And I'm excited to see what he can do. Jaden Lamar also, if you guys go watch the tape, there's this one play where he lays 2, not 1, but 2 defenders out on the block. And, man, Jaden Lamar, I'm excited to see what these young guys can do. Jordan James, Jaden Lamar, they're going to be out here for Oregon for a while. And it's going to be fun. Running back coach. Walk-on coach, we call him walk-on coach Carlos Lachlan. He's the running back coach here at Oregon. He's had an eye for talent. Look at this. Bucky Irving, Noah Whittington. Noah Whittington will be back as well next year. These guys are fairly unknown guys that we had no idea about coming in. I mean, when Carlos Lachlan took over, we thought Byron Cardwell was going to be the starter over Bucky Irving and Noah Whittington. Because we didn't know them. They were fairly unknown guys. But what has Carlos Lachlan proved? Time and time again, he has found guys, diamonds in the rough guys. And he was able to flip a guy in Jordan James last second from the Georgia Bulldogs. And he's going to probably be contending for that starting spot with Noah Whittington coming back from injury. Austin Novostad came into this game, obviously, after Bo Nix throws 5 touchdowns, 363 yards. You're going to get Austin Novostad comes in. Bo Nix also broke the single season record for touchdown passes with 43. Also, most passing yards in a single season ever as a Duck with 4,457 passing yards. And Bo Nix also broke Max Jones' single season completion percentage record at 77.37%. So when that's all done, Austin Novostad came in. First drive was a little choppy. And you're going to get that from a young guy first coming in, getting his feet wet. But once he warmed up, he looked the part. And you see why Austin Novosad was a highly recruited 4-star. And, we were able to flip him from Baylor. Baylor really wanted him. Okay, when Dante Moore went to UCLA, Bo Nix came to stay at Oregon, the Oregon coaching staff pivoted to Austin Novosad quickly. And what Dante Moore was to Oregon, we remember all the hype. Duck fans, you know what I'm talking about. We wanted Dante Moore, okay, but he decided to go to UCLA about a year ago. That want and that need from the coaching staff, not only coaching staff, but the fan base as well, that we wanted Dante Moore, that same want need was the same want need that Baylor wanted Austin Novosad. Austin Novosad was Baylor's guy. And on a drop of a dime, Oregon's coaching staff was able to go in there and get Baylor's quarterback just like that, Austin Novosad. And look, he's not talked about a lot, obviously, because Bo Nix, big-time quarterback. Ty Thompson has been here for a while, but he's gone now, right? So the room cleared up. Austin Novosad got a little bit of an opportunity. It was a little ugly early. Didn't exactly make too many plays, but that second drive that he came in, man, he was scanning the field, stood in that pocket. He's a little slender, needs to get a little more, more little zip on the passes. You seen that on that 3rd and 11 play when he's rolling out and he had a guy open, but he just underthrew it because he doesn't have that strength yet. But when he gets that, man, this guy's tall. He's really long. He can see over that line, and he has a cannon of an arm, but he needs to just get that strength to get it down the field a little more with a little more velocity is what I'm saying. So I love Austin Novosad's game. I don't know the future because Oregon's bringing in 2 transfer quarterbacks and looks like they're planning for the future here. But I do like what I've seen, man. Making passes over the middle, scanning the field, staying patient. Definitely a pure pocket passer is what I see from Austin Novosad. Resembles of Justin Herbert a little bit. I don't want to go too far there and say he is a Justin Herbert, but resembles there. Very long, tall, pocket passer type of player. Man, Austin Novosad, I really like what I've seen from him. He went 5 of 7, 38 yards in his time. Not much, but definitely some flashes there. On the defensive end, let's talk about Roderick Pleasant, man. This guy put a hit on a dude and made the dude fumble when we got it. That Roderick Pleasant, absolutely dominant, guys. Real quick, guys, appreciate everybody for tuning in. J3808 says, "Sco Ducks." J3808 says, "Can't wait to see Dylan Gabriel next season." Me either. Thank you, Bo Nix. J3808 says, "Yeah, no doubt, man. Cannot wait for that." Guys, this video is brought to you by Mojo Fantasy. Stick right with me. We'll get to the second part of the podcast right after this. What's up, guys? If you're watching this video, I assume you love watching sports, and I also assume you love making money just like everybody else in the world. So I'm here to tell you guys about Mojo Fantasy. It's a crazy new app that turns sportsbook odds and selections into fantasy contests. Guys, I have been killing it at Mojo Fantasy. Here's how it works, guys. There are thousands of NFL and MLB player props. You build a portfolio, and the better your portfolio performs, the more cash you win. Pick as many props as you want and try to beat the crowd. It's a whole new way to play fantasy, guys. The props act like stocks, so you can buy and sell live all game long. It's the only fantasy app, the only one that lets you make moves after the game starts, so you're not stuck with a bad pick. You can cash in on a hot start or just hang on and let them ride. Now, cash contests are based on real sportsbook odds. You can get the live same player prop selection odds and cash outs as Mojo's New Jersey sportsbook. You can trade sports just like stocks, guys. You control the action. You can ride your picks, cash out, or enter new positions instantly. And guys, this is my favorite thing about Mojo Fantasy. There is no house advantage, no trying to go against the casino odds. You beat the crowd by building the biggest portfolio and climbing that leaderboard to win that sweet hard-earned cash. And guys, if you know ball and you're going against a bunch of dummies, to be real with you, it's real easy, and that's it. That's all there is to it. You make picks, you make moves, and you make money. Download now on the Apple App Store and use my code DuckZone for a 100% deposit match up to $100 for your first time deposit. Link in the description for more. If you're watching on Instagram, the link is in the description on my profile. As always, guys, go Ducks. Enjoy the podcast. All right, continuing on with the podcast here. Oregon picks up a big 45-6 win in the 2023 Fiesta Bowl, capping off a very successful season. 6th time since 2010 that Oregon wins 12-plus games. This is awesome for the Ducks. Big time victory. As expected, Ducks do exactly what they're doing. Have big momentum now going to the transfer portal window that's going to open up here in a little bit. And also, heading into recruiting going into next season. Checking in with you guys here. Brian Callahan says, and now we root for the Longhorns to demolish the Huskies. Horns up. Yes, sir. Hey, this is the thing, guys. Look, I hate Washington. I'm sure you hate Washington as much as I do. And look, Washington, what do? They hang on to a shared title that they never played for. They never actually played a national championship game. So they like to hate on us for not having a national championship when Oregon has played in 2 national championship games. 2 of them since 2010. And they want to hate on us when they haven't played in 1. They got to share a title with Miami because that's how the rules were in 1991, if you didn't know. And they got to share a title that they actually never played for. And that's what they cling to so dearly, to have a leg up against Oregon. And can you imagine? I hate to say it, but can you imagine if Washington actually wins a national championship and plays for it and wins it? Oh, my gosh. Oh, and they have a team to do it. I hate to say it. They have the team to do it this year. What I'm hoping is Washington gets stomped, dude. I hate Washington. Dry Toast says, I think we're going to be okay next season, and I'm okay. I'm excited to see what we do in the Big Ten. Look, Oregon's going to the Big Ten with arguably the best quarterback in the conference in the Big Ten, with Dylan Gabriel, probably the most experienced for sure. That could be definitely a big time debate, but I'm going to be biased here and say we have the best quarterback going into next year. I definitely like how the defense is looking. Especially if we retain Jordan Birch up front, that's going to be one I'm watching. And look, Oregon just had the second best recruiting class, in some cases the best recruiting class in the Big Ten going into 2024. So Dan Lanning got the Ducks heading in high going into 2024. Terry Samuels, what's up? Man, oh man, I'll say this again. All I know is a person that decided that it's okay for Liberty to play Oregon should be fired, or the whole committee should be replaced. We should have been playing a real team that's not a second-rate team from a second-rate conference. That's a joke. It's an insult and slap in the face. I think, look. Terry. I get it. I feel you. I don't think Oregon should be playing Liberty. Look, but here's the thing. A G5 school, the rules are they have to get in. And look, we go to a 12-team playoff next year. 12-team playoff. I think somebody in the comments said something about a 12-team playoff. Okay, we go to a 12-team playoff next year, and one team, a 1G5 team, has to get in, especially if they're undefeated. And if we were in a 12-team playoff, that 12th team would have been Liberty. So, that being said, G5 schools are 4-6 in New York 6 Bowls, believe it or not. So they are winning 40% of the time, believe it or not. So it's not like they can't ever beat a Division I school. Now, like I said earlier in the podcast, Oregon only lost their 2 games by a playoff team by a total of 6 points. And you match them up with a team that is 13-0. They did win all their games in Liberty, but they played the easiest schedule in college football. And there was a debate between SMU and Liberty, which G5 school should get in. But again, guys, this team, with all due respect, it is not easy to win all your games. Yes, it was an easy schedule, but they went 13-0. So we had to show them a little bit of respect. But you're right. I do think this was a bad matchup. I think moving forward, when selecting these bowl games, I think they got to think a little harder about matching up certain opponents. I definitely could agree with that. Let's see what else you guys are saying in the comments. What's up? Tez Johnson was electric to do today. Absolutely, man. Love Tez. I hope he stays. Absolutely love it. Hope everybody's having a great time. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the defense today. Because the defense, man, I've been talking a lot about the offense and Bo Nix and Bucky Irving. Let's talk about the defense because, yes, they started out slow. They allowed a touchdown But after that, guys, shut them out. I mean, Oregon went on a complete 42-0 run after they were down 63 after the first quarter. And a lot of that had to do with the defense. Look, this Liberty team came in as the number one rushing team. 302 yards per game on the ground. They were averaging 302 yards. They finished this game with just 168 yards rushing. And on my preview, with John Manson, who runs a seaofred.com, who covers Liberty, he felt fairly confident that Liberty would be able to run the ground at times. He didn't feel like they would be able to take it over, but he felt that was a way that Liberty could be able to stay in the game and control the clock. And, I somewhat agreed with him. I actually had Liberty rushing for around 220, 230. I thought we'd be able to hold them definitely under, but I thought a big part of Liberty's offense was running the football. And, they did try to run the football, 28 rush attempts. But Oregon, I thought a big key to that was matching Liberty's rushing game. Because, look, if Liberty got theirs, I wanted Oregon to be able to match their rushing attack with our rushing attack. Because our rushing attack is just as good. Jordan James, Bucky Irving, I know we can match them for sure with our offensive line. And I thought our front seven could definitely match up better with Liberty's offensive line and running backs, better than Liberty's defensive line matching up with Oregon's offensive line. So I thought that was a huge advantage there, and it turned out to be. I mean, holding Liberty to only 168 rushing yards, I'm pretty sure that's a season low for them. 6 yards per rush isn't pretty for the Ducks, but I'll take it. Especially if you got 168 yards. Penalties. Look, penalties were a big thing for the Ducks all year. A lot more times than not in a lot of games, Oregon had a lot of penalties. They only had 2 penalties for 20 yards. And to have young guys playing this game as well and to finish with low penalties, very, very good there. Liberty finished with 6 penalties for 49 yards. It definitely helped out the Ducks. Ducks forced 2 turnovers on defense. They had an interception, and they had a fumble. Man, oh man, great stuff. Salter finished with only 126 yards passing. He had himself a touchdown to begin the game. But other than that, man, I think Ducks, I think Liberty came out and definitely surprised the Ducks with their offense. I told you guys coming in that they kind of run a triple option spread offense. That's definitely different. You don't see this offense in the Pac-12 on the West Coast much at all. It's not an Army offense. It's not all the time run, but there's that triple option with the spread where, and the pass. It's very hard to defend. Definitely unique offense. And I think it definitely surprised Oregon a little bit. I think it surprised the defense. Maybe Liberty was doing a couple of different things. And Liberty's offensive line, man, all their guys are over 300 pounds. Nearly, I think 4 out of 5 of them are over 300 pounds. This is a big offensive line. Not athletic as the Ducks, but definitely big. Definitely able to, at least contend with our guys up front, weight size, right? Or weight wise, right? So definitely, a big thing there for Liberty was their offensive line. We were able to, stick it to them and hold them just 168 yards rushing, 126 passing. Ducks dominate the yardage, guys. 584 total yards for the Ducks, nearly 600 yards offense, and we held Liberty to just 294 yards offense. This is a team that was averaging 302 yards rushing. We hold them to just 294 yards total. Time of possession, this was big. I thought if Liberty was going to win this game, they needed to run the football, hang on to it. Look, when Oregon had dominant offenses with Chip Kelly, Marcus Mariota, when they're averaging 50 points per game, and their kryptonite was Stanford, how did Stanford beat them? They got stops, they turned Oregon over, and they controlled the clock. They chewed up that clock as much as they possibly could, and they ran the football effectively. Liberty runs the football effectively. They were number 1 in forcing turnovers. Oregon did not turn over the ball, and Oregon really stuffed their run game. When Stanford beat Oregon, when Oregon was a powerhouse, they were able to run the football. They were able to stop Oregon on 3rd down. In this game, Oregon goes 6 of 11 on 3rd down, 2 of 2 on 4th down. So Liberty's recipe success in my book, if I was their coach, if I had a recipe for success for Liberty, it was the old Stanford playbook. How did Stanford beat them in 2012 and 13? They controlled the clock, and that's not what happened here. Oregon controls the clock 35 minutes to Liberty's 24 minutes, out-rushing Liberty 183 to 168. 3rd down, Oregon's efficient, 6 of 11. I mean, Oregon just absolutely dominated their game plan. A lot of young guys got in. This is a blowout. So shout out Kenyon Sadiq, scored himself a touchdown on that end around. We've seen this a lot this season. Kenyon Sadiq is very different than Terrence Ferguson, okay, at tight end. Terrence Ferguson, big tight end, can go out there and make catches, big time radius with the hands. Kenyon Sadiq's just a pure athlete, man. Definitely fast, shifty tight end. Think of Brock Bowers over at Georgia. Now, I don't want to compare him because Brock Bowers is literally the best college football tight end in the country. But Kenyon Sadiq has the potential to be that. And I think, doing that end around play is a great play for him, and he scored on it in this game. And we're going to be seeing him in the future. Very excited to see Kenyon Sadiq. Jerion Dickey, 5-star wide receiver. Everybody was excited to see Jerion Dickey to see what he can do because highest rated player in the 2023 class tore his meniscus in high school. So that's a big injury. If anybody knows about meniscus injuries, those take a long time to recover for. He actually didn't even get into the Oregon program until the summer. So a lot of these kids, a lot of these 2024 kids, I mean, they're on campus right now. They were practicing ahead of the bowl game. The majority of the 2024 class. And that was the same case with the last class with Dan Lanning. In the 2023 class, he had a lot of these young guys coming in during January, during the spring, playing in the spring game. And what does that do? That develops you. That gets you familiar with the playbook. That gets you familiar with your players and the system and just life in general as a college athlete. It takes time to adjust. And Jerion Dickey is dealing with an injury and then gets to campus late. So it was hard for him to play this year. He did redshirt this year because he didn't play in more than 4 games. So he does get to redshirt. So he'll be a redshirt freshman next season, although he'll be a sophomore and in school. He's a redshirt freshman on the field because he didn't play more than 4 games. So that's the good news. And I think he did have a couple catches in this one, which is good for him, make an appearance and a debut because, man, this was the best wide receiver on the West Coast coming out of high school. The best. And you know how many wide receivers come out of the West Coast. We're full of them over here. And, man, Jerion Dickey's a special talent. Can't wait to see what he can do. Roderick Pleasant, spoke about him already a couple times in this podcast, but Roderick Pleasant, man, absolute beast, man, on the defensive end. Look, it was flying around. He is one of the fastest players on the team in general. He's also going to run track for us. So we all seen players like Devin Allen and stuff run track, play football. Roderick Pleasant's going to be one of those guys. He was a 4-star DB coming out of California. So this is a big time freshman, caused a fumble. You've seen the speed. You've seen the hit stick come out and cause a fumble. Shout out Roderick Pleasant. Ayapani Lualu, he played center this game, really played well. Jackson Powers Johnson going to the draft, is going to the draft. So he did not play in this game. Ayapani Lualu, carrying on this offensive line culture, having dominant offensive lines, I think he's going to step in very nicely to that role, and he did this game as well. And then Austin Novostad, like I said, man, very smooth, 5 of 7, 38 yards. Kind of struggled when he first came in, but as the wheels got greased up, looked real nice. Definitely a pocket passer, pure pocket passer. Just needs to build on his frame, keep progressing as a quarterback. Love to see what he turns into. Couple of my freshman standouts there: Austin Novostad, Ayapani Lualu, Roderick Pleasant, Jerion Dickey, Kenyon Sadiq for sure. Let's go ahead and recap my 3 keys to the game that I had. So in my preview prediction episode, I always like to give you guys 3 keys to the game and, let you know what I think about the 3 keys of the game and if Oregon got them. So number 1 for me was start fast. Oregon was a 17-point favorite coming into this game. So I definitely thought that, Oregon starting fast would be a big key. Well, they didn't. 6-3 didn't turn out to affect anything. Oregon goes 28-0 in that second quarter, then absolutely goes on a 42-0 run to end the game. But they did not start out fast. I thought, starting out fast the way they did against Kansas State in 2013 with DeAnthony Thomas, punches in the end zone, get all the momentum in that game. It lets your opponent know that you are the better team and there ain't no coming back. But that wasn't the case, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter at the end of the day. Number 2, I had Bo Nix throw for 350 plus. This being his last game and with records on the line, I thought in my head that the Ducks would come out with Bo Nix in the game plan. a lot. I thought they'd be trying to pass this ball, sling the ball out there, let him break those records. And I thought this would be a big day for Bo Nix, and it was. He definitely hit over that 350 mark, 5 touchdowns on the day, breaking 3 records all in one day. Special season, special day for Bo Nix, and he's gonna go into the NFL as an historic, legendary Duck. And then number 3, Bucky Irving and Jordan James rushed for a combined 150 yards, and that they did. I thought that like I said, Oregon was kind of struggling trying to run the ball last few games. They come in, and Bucky Irving, Jordan James, I thought this was an opportunity against Liberty to reestablish that run game, because the last couple of games it was kind of all on Bo Nix to throw the ball on his shoulders. And one thing that Oregon did well all season, going through their season being so dominant, blowing teams out the way they did, having the biggest winning margin out of any team in college football, is they had one of the most balanced offenses in the country. They could run that ball. They can pass the ball. And towards the end of the season, in the last couple of games, especially in the Pac-12 championship, they just could not get a run game going. I mean, they were held to, I think, 2.9 yards per carry in the Pac-12 championship. I mean, that is awful. That is not good. And when you have guys like Bucky Irving, Jordan James, that's just unexcusable. And against Liberty, with their rushing attack, it was very important for us to match that. Not only did we match it, but we outrushed them as well. So we hit on 2 or 3 of my keys. Number 1, start fast, was the one we didn't hit on. Didn't matter. We go 28-0 in that second quarter and just boat racing for the rest of the game. Number 2, Bo Nix throw for 350 plus. Check. Number 3, Bucky Irving, Jordan James rush for a combined 150 yards. Check. So I think that does it, guys. That's kind of all my thoughts. Let's get here. Ryder Dave says, I think that's when it's all said and done. JJ may be viewed as one of the better Oregon running backs, or Jordan James, one of the better running backs of all time. I think he does have that potential. I mean, he has a lot of, the way Jordan James hits that hole, the way his burst is elite. And he was highly recruited. He was committed to Georgia for a reason, one of the best programs in the country. And to have him flip to the Ducks and sit behind guys like Noah Whittington, Bucky Irving, let him develop a little bit, not have to have so much on his shoulders, is excellent. I think Dan Lanning and this Oregon offense, I think they like having 1, 2, and even 3 backs at a time. I mean, going back to Chip Kelly days when Kenyon Barner, LaMichael James was an excellent 1-2 punch. I mean, to have that with Bucky Irving, Noah Whittington, now you're going to have it with Noah Whittington, Jordan James, and possibly Noah Whittington, Jaden Lamar going in the future, because Jaden Lamar even looked really good. The running back room is bright. Right at Dave, I couldn't agree more. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for today. We got some playoff games. Alabama, Michigan are playing right now as we speak. I'm going to go ahead and watch that. And then, guys, horns up. I'm a Texas fan. I need to go buy me a Texas jersey because, woo! I do not want Washington to win today. If Washington loses today, icing on the cake heading into 2024 in the Big Ten, because look, Oregon is the only team on the West Coast with a college football playoff win. Only one. We beat Florida State in the first college football playoff in the Rose Bowl. Guess what? Washington, they've been in the college football playoff twice, more than us now. I can admit that. But they don't have a win. They got smoked by Alabama, and I'm hoping they get smoked by Texas too. Guys, I appreciate everybody for tuning in to the podcast. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I know most of you watch on Instagram Live. Appreciate everybody who does, but please, when this podcast ends, go hit that link in the bio. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for me. If you're listening on Spotify, rate it 5 stars for me, guys. I give you guys weekly podcasts on all things Oregon football, recruit interviews with the players that Oregon is targeting. A whole bunch of players just signed in this 2024 class. Gonna try to trickle those guys in onto the podcast as soon as I can. And if you're not following us on all social medias, right here at DuckZone503, go follow on all social media platforms, wherever you're on, go follow. Big Ten ball is coming, man. Big Ten, cannot wait to go play some big boy football and enter that great conference, the Big Ten, man. It's going to be awesome as we enter that conference. So make sure you're tuned in. I appreciate everybody for tuning in once again. I'm your host, Dominiqk Peterson. This is the DuckZone503 Podcast. We talk all things Oregon football. I'll catch you guys in the next podcast. As always, guys, go Ducks.